Is it Don to Don or Dan to Dan? Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and yes, I did rip off Good Mythical Morning just there with the "Let's talk about it" cold open and all. Um, but it's actually an interesting question because I've heard people arguing about this on social media. Is it Don to Don or Dan to Dan? How do you pronounce it? And the thing is, the title is kind of like this just nonsense fun word. From what I've heard, from what I read, it's not, it doesn't like have any deep meaning to it. It's just something fun and catchy that the creator thought up in order to like get people interested basically, which fair enough. But how is it pronounced? Because the opening very directly says Don to Don. When it's like that opening part of the opening where it's like repeating it over and over and over again in that like rhythmic drum beat tone, it's saying Don to Don. But some people are super insistent on it being Dan to Dan. And I've even seen like posts of people saying like that hearing people call it Don to Don is super annoying and cringy. And so it's like this is a case of one of those anime where it's like, is there an official pronunciation? And I don't know. I haven't been able to find anything because again, it's a nonsense word in the first place. But also, it's not said in the series in either the original Japanese or the dub outside of the opening. And the opening isn't changed for the dub. It's not like one of those old classic anime that was like on Foxbox or whatever that had an English original opening added in. No, it's not like that at all. Anime nowadays with the dubs still uses the original Japanese theme song. And that makes it harder in some cases. Because when you have a series where it's like, oh, how is this character's name pronounced, or whatnot, it's like, oh, you can listen to it in the Japanese, you can listen to it in the English, and try to figure it out from there because it's a character's name, or even the name of a location and everything. And sometimes it's different in the Japanese and the English. Like Shabandi Archipelago in One Piece. In the Japanese, they say Shabandi. But I believe in the English, they pronounce it Sabayadi or Sabayodi or something like that. They pronounce it the way it's spelled in English, which for English speakers makes a lot of sense. But in the Japanese, it's pronounced in a very specific way because of the like root of the word, the root of the term and everything. So it's like a very different way of pronouncing the same word depending on which language you're watching the series in. But again, with this, you don't hear the word said in the series, only the opening. But because the opening does say Don to Don, I think that's what I'm going to mostly go for. If I ever say Dan to Dan like on accident or just randomly, then it's not that big of a deal. But just, I'm going to say Don to Don most of the time because, again, that's what it says in the opening. Now, that we've got that out of the way, last time we met Santa Dodoria, the grandmother of Momo, and the new Gilf baddie of anime. She has been taking over the community by storm. Not only other reactors like pointing out how hot she is, but everyone. She's got so much fan art, including very much not safe for work fan art. and is just extremely popular already. She's even been compared to characters like Tsunade from Naruto, who is another older character who just happens to be hot as hell. Because Tsunade's, I think, like 50 years old. I think it's around 50. But she looks like she's maybe 30. And she's extremely attractive. That's actually a core part of her character. Um, her being like super attractive for her age is actually part of her character. They address it many times, and so far in this, they've actually addressed that Santa Dodoria, that Momo's grandmother, looks super young for her age. Now we don't know how old she is, though, and this has been kind of another debate about, among fans. There are some posts and videos and stuff going around social media saying this woman is 80 years old, and it's like she would not be 80. Like, is it possible that she is? Yes, absolutely. Is it realistic that she is? I mean, I guess technically, but it's more than likely she's not. See, if we say Momo is around 15, 16 years old, right? We can assume from that her grandmother is more than likely between 55 and 60. Now, in the episode, she mentions at multiple points, like, stuff about, like, her looks and whatnot. She brings that up at a couple points, and she even, like, wears this, like, this eye mask during a scene or two. And it's kind of implied that she's, like, a huge stickler about that kind of thing. That she's probably someone who uses all these treatments to make herself look young. It's it's probably one of those kind of characters, which Tsunade I think kind of was as well, wasn't she? Or was it just that she was using a jutsu to make herself look young? Either way, the point is Tsunade also, from what I remember, was very self-conscious, you could say, about her age. And she went through whatever she could to make herself look younger than she is in order to deal with that. And there's nothing wrong with people who do this in real life or with characters who do this. I have zero issue with it. Because some people can handle growing older a lot easier, and some people have a very hard time with it for various reasons. I myself have made clear on a couple of occasions that I'm not great at handling that. And I'm only 32. But, like, when I hit my 30th birthday a couple years back, I freaked out. I, like, had almost a meltdown. Because I'm afraid of dying. I have a very strong fear of death. And especially what happens after death. Like, I have my beliefs, but I'm also, you know, I also have a big fear of existentialism, and whenever I think about, like, what happens to your consciousness after you die, it sends me into a spiral. Um, Whenever I really start thinking about that. And so, sorry about that, male person. And so, I don't handle aging very well. When I turned 30, I was not in a good place because of it, like mentally and emotionally. And I've been freaking out for years over the fact that I've had gray hairs showing up and all. It's just, I don't handle that well. And I don't know if I would be the kind of person who would be, like, going out of my way to make sure I stayed looking as young as possible. But I can understand that perspective of things, especially more nowadays with my, like, getting upset at growing older. It's one of those situations where I can see both sides. I can see the side where it's like, oh, we should age gracefully and just accept it and still try to look our best, but not worry too much about it. And I understand the side where it's like, oh, I don't want to age. I want to look as young and good as I possibly can for as long as I can. I get both sides to that, and I don't look down on either perspective. So Santa Doria's, from what we could tell, implied viewpoint on this is completely fine and fair. And I mean, hey, it gives us a new anime baddie to thirst over, so that's always a good thing, right? But seriously, the fans are going crazy over her. And we knew she was hot already just because of the opening. But now that we also know that she's Momo's grandmother and that she is up there in age and everything, it's just even better. Because you don't get gilf characters too often. You sometimes do, but not too often. Also, I think her laugh is fucking hilarious. She has like this almost stereotypical old woman laugh, and it is the funniest thing, just contrasting that with her looks. And she's also just a fucking badass. She's amazing. She's a really strong fighter, really smart, really skilled, but also stubborn and ridiculous at times. It's like she's just a wonderful character so far. However, we left off last episode with Momo and Okarun heading to Turbo Granny. Because Turbo Granny's basically like, okay, I'm not letting you take your time and train. You come to me now, or I'm going to kill your grandmother. And everyone else you might care about. So Granny sets them up, gets them in some protective outfits, and sends them on their way. And I like how we see both Granny and Momo show this deep, like, almost rage at Turbo Granny for threatening their loved ones. Both of them show, like, an intense desire to protect their loved ones. And I really love that. It shows that these two are very similar, and that like even their like arguments and fights or whatnot, it is born out of love. That they very intensely love each other to the point where anyone insulting them, except themselves, of course, they can insult each other because they're family, you know. But anyone else outside of their family insulting them, it's on. And not just insulting, but obviously threatening too. And I like that. I just really like that. I really like their relationship because it feels real. It feels like entirely realistic. As someone who has been there with a lot of that, um, believe me, I get it. I've fought with my siblings, especially my brother. And I have definitely been at odds with just a lot of my family in general. But it's like, that doesn't mean I'm going to let other people insult them. You know what I mean? Anyway. Anyway. Just like before, I'm pre-recording this, so by the time you're seeing this come up, it'll have been like almost a week since I last recorded. But yeah. My thoughts in this will be basically entirely at the time of watching. My thoughts might change or update upon multiple rewatches as the week has gone along and all. So just keep that in mind. But honestly, I'm still probably going to be mostly positive on this because it's been like just really entertaining and really well done so far. I'm kind of fully in on this show. So let's get into it and see what this episode has in store for us, though. Cutting in here real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions, with 2 on Wednesday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. And don't forget all of the awesome gaming content we have on the Princess of Gaming channel. We have Baldur's Gate 3 every single day, Horizon Forbidden West every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We have Beyond Two Souls on Wednesdays and Sundays, and on Saturdays we have Poppy Playtime. And don't forget to follow the link in the description below to today's reaction. I redirect all reactions just due to copyright, you know how it is. And on top of that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video for more awesome content such as this. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get started on today's reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked it up and I was wrong about something. Just from the overwhelming hype and excitement of the episode, I got the name of a song wrong. The classical song that was playing during this. I said like Flight of the Valkyries. 1, it's called Ride of the Valkyries. And 2, that was wrong anyway. The actual song, the remix version of the classic song that plays in this episode is a remix of the overture from Jacques Offenbach's Orpheus in the Underworld. It is another one of those classic songs that I really like. It's just I mixed up which one it was. But yeah, it's still a really, really great inclusion in here. A really unexpected inclusion, but fantastic decision nonetheless. Now, this episode, near the end, got into like a really surprisingly dark and sad backstory, I guess you could say, to the location-bound crab spirit that I really wasn't expecting. We find out that the spirit was an amalgamation of teenage girls who over time had died, been not only died, but been violently and horrifically murdered in and around that tunnel. That they amalgamated into this singular spirit creature, you could say, after death. And there's also implication that Turbo Granny was kind of looking after them. So it's like, yeah, that's really dark. That's really sad. Why are you doing that to me out of nowhere? But I feel like it's fitting for this show to kind of switch from zaniness to, you know, emotional or heavy stuff kind of randomly. It seems like it's this kind of show to like just kind of play around with tone. And I think it does it really well. Because throughout this episode you have a lot of like really cool action scenes and stuff, but then you have utter goofiness, like when they're eating the crab and everything. Yeah. Really interesting, really odd, but really good. The action sequences in this episode, which take up most of the episode, were really interesting, and I really liked seeing the different ways that they kind of had to try and outsmart Turbo Granny. Because here, the thing is, the entire thing about counting and that loophole that Turbo Granny was exploiting for the rules of the race is bullshit. Like, she technically is correct, but it's only on a technicality. Because realistically, there's no way that that's a valid argument to make. Saying like, oh, she didn't specify how I could count. And it's like, bitch, 10 minutes means 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a set period of time. You don't get to just count quicker. That's not how that works. It's like, yeah, she didn't specify like how you would count. True. But you actively know that's not what she meant. This is like the ridiculous thing about some of these stories where it's like, oh, you're making either like a deal with the devil or You have like a monkey's paw situation going on, or some kind of like bet with like a spirit or a creature or something like this. It's like in almost all of these scenarios, you always see like some kind of loophole found, whether by the person making the deal or the spirit or creature or whatever else, or you see cheating, and it's done through like technicality and wording. But you see this all the time, and it's bullshit every time. It's like there you can't defend that line of thought here. Turbo Granny cheated. She actively cheated. And that's kind of fucked up. But also, there's a precedence for it in this show, because we saw last time, or not last time, but the time before that, episode 2, the Lakewood Monster also cheated with the rules of sumo and everything. So it seems like that might be like an ongoing thing. These creatures and spirits and whatnot, aliens that they have to face, are going to be not abiding by whatever rules are set forth, whether it's rules within their own ideals or whatever, or rules based on some kind of challenge that Momo and Okarun put them through. I feel like that's going to keep happening, or at least consistently enough to where it's an ongoing thing. Because it just feels like that wouldn't be a one and done kind of situation, you know? And considering we've had it done twice now, it definitely feels like it's going to keep being a thing. But it's also really interesting that Okarun got his penis back really early on. Because Granny knew that they were going to be using Okarun's transformed state against Turbo Granny. And because of that, she gave him his penis back, took away his curse, and made it so that he couldn't transform anymore. Until they managed to trap Turbo Granny inside of him, and then it's like, okay, different circumstance, same effect. And now, with Turbo Granny completely defeated, what's going to happen next? Like, is she not truly defeated? Because there's no way they're going to, like, not continue on with his transformed state, unless he's going to have different transformations based on, like, different spirits. That would be really cool. Like, if he had different transformations that had different abilities. Like this one, obviously we know runs fast, but what if we had a transformation that was all power? What if we had one that was like psychic abilities, kind of like what Momo can do? And they like combine their psychic powers together. There's all kinds of possibilities with this, and that would be really interesting to explore. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like this just standard transformed state, but I kind of would like to see different forms in that regard. I think that would be really cool. But like I was saying, I really like how the action sequences in this went, and I like how Momo and Okarun managed to like outsmart Granny at different points. Like, because even with the train, it's like, oh, she grabs onto the train and they fly off and all, but the train's not always going to go faster than Granny, so she's able to catch up to be able to jump on. But it was all a trap in the first place to get her within range of Santa Dodoria, who then is able to, exercise her. And it's like, that was so smart. That was so goddamn smart. That was, like, did you guys plan this somehow when I wasn't looking? Because how did she know to be there right at that point? Maybe she was watching them the entire time and, like, saw what Momo was doing and got ready, like, lickety-split quick. I don't know. But it's fucking awesome. I almost don't even really care. Like, the how it worked and how like they planned that out or figured out to do that, but I almost don't care because it's so cool. It's just so cool. Um, but yeah, it's like I really like how they use their powers too. Momo using her powers mainly to grab onto stuff or to redirect Okarun while he's running since he can't change direction very well. I really like that aspect too because of the irony of it. Because the way she used her powers, like to grab onto a building so that they would swing around and like redirect it, like was very reminiscent of Luffy's Gum Gum powers from One Piece. He's even done that very kind of thing. And it's funny because Turbo Granny's voiced by the same voice actor as Luffy, Mayumi Tanaka. That's just really fucking funny to me that that had to be a reference, right? Because there's been a bunch of references in this. There's like references in the opening and in the episodes and all. That had to be a reference, right? I mean, you have fucking Luffy's VA here. That can't be unintentional. To use a very Luffy-esque style of redirection there. That's just like, come on. It was really fun though. And again, having Orpheus in the Underworld playing during that was just so good. Such a good song choice. I actually like classical music a lot. Um, and so it's like it's just really fun when like modern remixes of that are integrated into anything. But like the context of its integration here was so fucking fun. Um, yeah, this was just a really, really good battle. I like that most of the episode was centered around that with a little bit of levity thrown in here and there, especially at the end. Also, the way Momo was eating that crab, it's like, Jesus. What the fuck? How are you having that much trouble with that crab? It's like she was having trouble biting into it. It's like, is that crab not prepared properly? Crab is not like super stretchy like that. That's crab is not like that. Clam is like that, but crab isn't. Squid is like that, but crab isn't. Crab is not super stretchy and rubbery. Like that's just not how it is. Uh, like I'm sure it was done mostly for the comedic effect of it and all, and Jesus, but okay. Also, I love that both Momo and her grandmother are just like chaotic, like weirdos. Because you definitely see where Momo got it from. Um, but it's like if she's like correct and like Granny was just trying to be like nice and trying to bring up Okaru's mood, that is one wild way to do it. Um, it is a very fucking wild way to do that. Granny, you need to fucking chill. Um, but I feel like this show is just it's the right level of crazy to where jokes like that wouldn't work in other shows that would actually feel very unsettling and creepy and just not good in other shows. I think because of the context of this and how this show is just overall handled and written, I think it works better here because it's like it's not meant to be taken seriously. You know that this is meant to be a very crazy, ridiculous, borderline stupid series that you're supposed to just laugh at how over the top it is. You're not supposed to take this kind of like iffy humor too seriously. You're supposed to just see it as stupid and ridiculous. And there's shows that work like that. Like Panty and Stocking is another great example of a series like that. It's like if you analyze some of the stuff that happens in Panty and Stocking, pretty problematic, actually. If you really think about some of the stuff that the characters do and everything, and especially in regards to brief and whatnot, um, to not go into too much detail, but some of the stuff that happens in regards to brief and whatnot, it's not great. But you have to realize the context of the series. The series is not meant to be taken seriously. It's not meant to be seen in that way. It's meant to be over the top, ridiculous, stupid, and just you're supposed to view it as dumb fun more than anything. You're not supposed to take what they're doing seriously because it's just pure humor. And it's one of those shows, just like this, that can work with that because it's written in a way that makes it work, that makes it okay. Because neither show is like trying to tell you, like, oh, sexual assault is okay. No, not by any means. In fact, this show makes it very clear that it's not, if anything. But they're almost kind of poking fun at stuff like that as a way of making it seem less scary. That's what it comes across like to me. They're trying to make it less scary to try and help people deal with it a little better. And I don't know if that's entirely the intent, but it comes across that way nonetheless. Like they're not trying to make it less important or make it less of a big deal, but they're trying to make people they're trying to stop people from being so constantly like afraid and to try and like just I don't know how to explain it super well. I hope you understand what I'm thinking here regarding that. And yeah, it doesn't come across as super negative or aggressively bad or anything like that. Again, it's all about the way it's handled. So yeah, I think this show and Pain and Stocking do that well enough to where it doesn't feel like they're trying to excuse it, but rather just kind of poke fun at things, poke fun at and almost make fun of people who would do something like that as a way of coping almost. And there's a lot you could say regarding doing that kind of thing in the first place and all, and it's a hard topic no matter how it's handled. Because some people don't like it being handled super seriously in media either, because it's very harsh and hard for people to handle. And as someone who's been sexually assaulted, I can very much speak to that. That when you sometimes see it handled very seriously and realistically in media, it's kind of worse than when they're kind of like poking fun at it and playing around with the idea as like not really a joke, but in a humorous light to make it less frightening. It kind of helps sometimes to view it that way. Without, of course, like I said, without minimizing how bad it is. It's a tough, touchy subject, no matter what. But I think that this show handles it really well. A lot better than other shows I've seen have, and just a lot of other pieces of media in general. Um, I'm really, really interested to see where this show goes now that it seems like this first arc is done. And considering how this ended with them saying like sayonara, goodbye, and then like over analyzing like the word, and it's like, oh, should I have said something else? I just said goodbye? Really? But then she says like, see you at school, or see you next time, or tomorrow, or whatever it was. Um, and it's like it just feels more satisfying. Like, even if you're not like a Japanese speaker and don't understand like differences in meaning between like certain terms and stuff, you still understand this. Goodbye seems a lot more like just boring, for lack of a better word. Also, I'm going to try to fix the lighting as best I can here while I'm talking. Um, it's a little better. I can't fix it completely because it's just that time of day. But yeah, it's a little more, I guess, informal, and a little more like, well, actually, maybe a little more formal. It feels like less personal. Let's put it that way. It feels less personal, and it feels more like you're just saying goodbye to someone, just generically. When you say like "see you tomorrow" or "see you later" or something, it adds in sort of a edge of this kind of edge of caring. You know what I mean? I'm bad at wording shit. I've made that clear. But it kind of feels like more caring and more personal and more like connected than if you just say goodbye. So the way this ended with her saying that, and it's like it solidifies that these two, even now that all of this is done, are still friends, are going to remain friends, are going to remain close, and their blooming relationship will definitely still happen because it's pretty obvious. Um, it makes it clear that they're not going to just like ignore each other from here on out. Now that this is all done, and so I like that they played around with the wording there and made it clear that yes, just saying a generic goodbye isn't really fitting here. They're closer than that now, especially because of all of these circumstances they've been through in the past, what, day or two? I don't even think it's been a full day, right? Because it was night time to when they went to their locations where they got abducted and possessed. No, I think it might have been a full day because it was night then. Then they went into the daytime in episode in episode 3. We had the daytime and all, and they spent the day like meeting uh, Santa Dodoria and everything. And then that night is when this episode take place again. So yeah, it's been about a day. These first 4 episodes took place within a single day, and I kind of dig that. All of the events of this first episode taking place within like 24 hours, practically, maybe just over, because of the stuff we saw at the school prior. Um, the point is, a little over 24 hours, it's like, that's not a lot of time. They have not really known each other very long. So we see that the circumstances they went through, the events that happened within this short amount of time, have been so affecting towards them that it's made them have to come together and become closer. They've just formed bonds like really quickly. And sometimes that can happen, and I think that's believable given the circumstances. So I wonder now if we're going to start getting some of the other characters we've seen in the opening, because there's at least 2 other characters we haven't seen yet. No, there's 3. There's the cat, who I still think is the lucky cat we saw inside the house, inside the grandmother's house, probably possessed by a spirit. And then we have the 2 other students who are in the opening as well. We could definitely start getting these 3 characters within these next episodes. At least one of them. I'm very curious to see what happens next. Because there's so much potential for this series, and I really hope it lives up to it. And I want to see more of just, honestly, at this point, these characters. I've grown to love these characters like super quickly, and it's like they're absolute fucking dumbasses. They're like they are the dumbest of the asses, but they are so fucking charming. Like they they're charismatic enough, I guess you could say, to where it's like it's so charming, it's so fun. It's like you just can't help but kind of love them. They're such likable characters so easily, so quickly, and you don't always get that. Some shows it takes a while to build up to really liking these characters. And sometimes you really have to get to know them first. But then occasionally you'll get a series where it's like, oh, you just fall in love with these characters almost instantly because they're just super charming and likable and fun. And sometimes that's all you really need. Characters who are fun and everything, and you can add the depth in later. And I definitely think it's going to add in a lot more depth later. Though there is already some depth to them. I mean, they definitely have character and everything. But yeah, I'm very, very excited to see where this continues to go. Now, for next week. So next week's going to be interesting because, well, the day you're seeing this is actually the day before I go to YomaCon. I have to remember, you're seeing this on Wednesday the 30th. So on the 31st, on Halloween, is the first day of YomaCon. And so in the afternoon/evening, I'm going to be going to the convention. And that raises a question for recording this, pre-recording this as I usually do. As of now, I'm just going to tell you, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to record this the day it airs, like I usually do with these. I'm going to try to record episode 5 day of, but if I can't get to it, then there's not really anything I can do about that. I apologize, but I can't I can't do something like that if I don't have the time to. And honestly, if I have to prioritize getting everything ready for the convention for the weekend, then I'm going to do that. Of course, you'll still see this the following one on, the normal day of anyway. The reason I'm bringing this up, though, is because I'm worried about possibly being spoiled at YomaCon. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm at YomaCon and I hear somebody talking about episode 5 because it came out at the start of the weekend. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I really am. And if I can get to recording it on Thursday, which again, for you right now is tomorrow, on the day you're seeing this, before I leave, then I'm like entirely good with that, but I can't promise anything. So when you see the next episode, which will be a week from now as of when you're watching this, I will let you know when I'm recording it. And if I've been spoiled or not, I will make sure to tell you. So, yeah. Just letting you know about that ahead of time. And hopefully things go well. But either way, we are going to we're just going to end things here. So tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode? Uh, Obviously, do not spoil me for the future. If you've read the manga, if you just have seen trailers or whatnot, no spoilers. I want to continue this as spoiler free as possible. So just do not tell me anything if it's not in the content of these first 4 episodes. But let me know your thoughts on these first 4 episodes, and especially episode 4 here below. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.